Thank you, and welcome to our fourth day of National Distance Learning Week. We're excited that you could join us, whether in person or virtually. I'm pleased to introduce our speakers to you today. Today's presentation will be given by a team from SUNY Brockport. Our speakers include Dr. Zhang and Anne Pearlman and Jennifer Kegler. Dr. Zhang is a professor of special education at Brockport. Her research focuses on the efficacy of interventions for children with disabilities, services for children with diverse cultural and linguistic backgrounds and their families, and scholarship of teaching and learning in higher education, especially as related to pedagogy and assessments. Dr. Zhang has been teaching collaborative online international learning COIL courses with international partner universities in Brazil, China, France, Mexico, Sweden, and the Ukraine. Anne Pearlman is a senior instructional designer emeritus and adjunct faculty member of the Departments of Communication and Education and Human Development. As the COIL coordinator for Brockport, she led the COIL Standing Committee and coordinated and supported faculty members to plan and deliver international virtual exchange courses. Jennifer Kegler is an associate librarian for reference and instruction in the Drake Memorial Library at SUNY Brockport. Her research interests include information literacy practices, assessment methods, and cognitive learning theories as they relate to online environment. She's published articles related to these topics as well as presented at the local, state, and national levels. We're excited to hear about your presentation today, and we're always thrilled to welcome you here to do this for us. So welcome to everyone.
Thank you, Ariel.
So I'm going to start off and talk about our learning outcomes. So today we're going to talk about a faculty librarian instructional designer collaboration prior to and during the pandemic. We're going to discuss the journey of planning, implementing, and revising our collaborative online learning courses. And we're going to debrief the pedagogical and technological issues encountered when implementing these courses in this particular project.
So why COIL? One of the reasons is for engaging students in high impact practices. And these are some of the recommendations that come from George Koo, who is one of the leading scholars in this field. Develop common intellectual experiences, work on collaborative assignments and projects, build international learning communities, discover diversity through global learning, and gain intercultural experiential learning.
So our COIL is aligned with the missions of the SUNY COIL, and SUNY Brockport. You can see here, Anne and I did an alignment across those organizations, and the globalization or global learning, diverse community, inclusive society, transformation mindset, and the student learning outcomes, especially the cultural competence or intercultural competence, related at the SUNY level will be cultural and international perspectives. Our Brockport COIL Standing Committee deliberately develop our missions to align with all these 4 areas.
So I'm going to talk about the project that we worked on together, the assignment. First, I want to say, if anyone's listening and doesn't know what the COIL is, it's a collaborative online international learning, and where professors from different countries collaborate together with their classes and work on assignment or a semester together. So I've been teaching, as you heard, I was the chair for the standing committee. And so along with many of my colleagues, we're all doing these COIL courses. And one of the things that is always stated as the best thing to do is start with an icebreaker. So what we try to do is students get to know each other. So in the beginning of the course, the first thing you do is an icebreaker assignment. And I worked with we changed them over time. I've had many different partners in different countries, but my one colleague who's been the longest has been my colleague from Amsterdam, Monica Forelle, Buena Forelle. And when I talked about how can we get them to get to know each other a little better. So we started with this idea of the iceberg concept of culture. Many different people are in disciplines and in philosophies, things use this model of an iceberg. And the idea is that what you know is with an iceberg, very little is above the surface. What you see in the iceberg is 10%, and what's below is like 90% of it. So if you relate that to a culture, what you know about someone by just the visual or meeting them briefly is very surface level. It's the food, it's the dress, the music, it's things like that you can automatically see and look at. Below the surface is where it gets to be different. And that's where you start talking about myths and cultures and religions. There's so much more to a culture that's not seen at first notice. So we started to look at this assignment. We had this icebreaker assignment, and we started to look at what was happening with the assignment. I'll tell you very briefly about my course. So my course is journalism and broadcast, and the class is advertising and consumer culture. The goal of the class is for students to understand persuasion in advertising, and I took it from a cultural perspective. How does the larger world in public service announcements and commercial advertising persuade an audience, and how do they do that globally? So what do you need to know about this? So my students are going to work on an assignment. They're going to make commercials in print and video commercials for a global audience. So they have to begin to know another culture. And this is happening with my colleague and her students and my students. So go ahead. So I did this for a number of years, and from my own teaching, from our group, our standing committee, and from the trainings from COIL and all the COIL committees, we were hearing what's happening, what are they really learning about each other, and generally this is not a bad thing that they do. We have them find out about each other, but what they find out initially is very surface. So you look at what we think about Amsterdam. So they think the first thing they see is that they look at their very easy Google search. They're mainly Dutch. There's coffee. They're open to drugs differently than we are. They ride bicycles. All these things you can very easily see with the Google search. And the same thing was happening, what they would think about the United States. And as you can see, first thing is fast food. We're all fast food eaters, but it's a wonderful way. It's a nice icebreaker, but it never gets below that. I mean, it never gets deeper. And I was starting to think, how am I going to get them to the assignments to have some depth if we don't do something else? So this is it's not a valuable thing, but it is surface level. So I just wanted to give an example of what the students do. So I thought to myself, what can I do to have the students do more? How can I help them? My class, and as Jennifer will talk about with me, my class is, this is Gen Ed. So it's open to Gen Ed. So it's not just in the major. And I have a high percentage of freshmen. So you take a look at that. How can I help them do some research? So I decided that one semester I started looking at the library and thinking, I thought it would be a good thing to lead our students to our library. And I was finding it difficult to find one place where you can find the information. Like we have LibGuides in our courses and we have communication in ours. But I knew if I'm struggling, what are they going to be able to do and how am I going to help them with it? And also my strength is marketing. My strength is in media, and I knew that librarian would be much more helpful. So I tried to look at what we could do. And so I met with Jennifer. We took the summer and I met with Jennifer and told her about the issue and showed her the things that I was working on at that time. You want to go ahead? Okay. So during this time, Jennifer and I met, and we're going to go into depth a little bit about this. So Jennifer's going to talk to you about what she created, the LibGuide she created for us for the COIL courses. And then we looked at the assignment and we decided to co-write a new assignment, a research assignment, and develop a rubric that we could use and we could assess together. So we made this whole plan over a summer. We worked the assignment. So we did the backwards design of teaching. We looked at how can we assess them, what can the assignment be, and how can we present it, and what will they do? So, and then we decided to go as far as say co-teach. And then Jennifer will tell you about her piece.
Hello, sorry, I had to mute. Okay, so this is the library research guide, and it is found directly off of the library website at SUNY Brockport. Our library is called Drake Memorial Library, which you can kind of see in green there. But when Anne came to me, I was really surprised that we had nothing to help students find country or culture information. We had general history, but that was more historical, and it had a country information tab, but there was nothing that could get them to the information they really needed. And this was something that we were able to use not only with Anne's class, but anyone else any student on campus, frankly, who's doing country or culture research. This is a little bit of an interactive guide. You can't quite see it here, but you can click on it. We call them tabs on the left. They're more like links. So country and culture information, the background information, that was links to reputable websites. And with some of these students, they would just, everyone Googles and you pick the first website, and some of them were citing blogs where it was so interesting. The information was completely incorrect if you kind of cross-matched it with other more reliable sources. So there are links on there, like from the CIA and also from United Nations, where they could get statistics and some basic information that still would be kind of surface level, but at least it would be correct, or hopefully a little more correct, obviously, than a blog or some of the wikis that are out there. The library resources, those are mostly databases that our students can access, although I've been trying to add things that anyone could access, because we know accessing databases is huge even when they get out of college, and our international partners, the students in other countries, weren't necessarily able to get into them. So this is still a work in progress. We do welcome any sites that you know of that could help as well. I add citing your sources because we help students cite sources all the time in the library. And this particular assignment, they're learning and they start to learn MLA, which is one way to cite resources, and it helps them there. And so this page could kind of be a one-stop shop for them in terms of the research project. And the Get Help tab is kind of fun. They could instant message me, they could send me an email. And the very first time I taught this, a few of them did come to the library. After that, we kind of ran into COVID, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but they could email me. We have seen less of that during COVID, but hopefully we can work on that. So this guide is something that we've used in several classes now.
So here's the assignment that we wrote together. Here's part of the assignment that we wrote together and the rubric. And Jennifer will talk next about how we did that, the co-teaching part. So the assignment, this was the first try, and things have changed, especially after viewing, meeting with Jay's class and seeing how she did things differently. We had students actually watch a video about the iceberg model, because it wasn't just that image wasn't helping. So it gave them a better understanding of what we were looking for. And then I had them write an essay, and that was not easy at the freshman level. I think the word, and Jennifer and I talked about this, the word was the thing. Oh my goodness, an essay. But we were trying to get them to not only do the research, but to understand writing and things at the college level, going along with what happens across campus. So I had them look for both the Dutch culture in this one, and then I wanted them to also look at something in the USA, because we are many cultures, and I wanted them to be able to do a compare and contrast. So I had them do that. And then we worked on, Jennifer and I looked at different rubrics. We had different models in front of us, and we adapted from the AAC and U. Some of the ones that looked at we looked more mainly in this piece, we looked at the research part. Were they writing well? Did they look well? Did they do citations and things like that? So we could both take a look at that from this rubric and take a look at the assignment and assess. Okay, so we did go on. So Jennifer, we can talk here. I will say that I invited Jennifer to the class to do the teaching, and we did see it needed more than one day, and I'll let her talk about this.
That's true. I went to Anne's class 2 different days, and this is something that librarians do quite often, although not all faculty know that we will come to your classroom, and things have changed a lot with being able to go online. But pre-COVID, I met with Anne's class in their original classroom, because students are often more comfortable in their own setting. They do come to the library, but then it's a stranger experience. I know that sounds funny, but they don't know me. So this way they're in the classroom. The first day we reviewed the cultural iceberg video, it's a really good example of what the iceberg is, and it kind of gets their attention a little bit more. We went over the research guide, and then we talked about finding those basic surface concepts using that background information tab of the guide. And then on day 2, we met in a computer lab, and that way they could have hands-on experience with finding resources for their papers. So we've revisited the research guide to make sure they knew how to get there. And then I also tried to help them develop keywords and search for articles, deeper level concepts. Anne and I have discovered that this is tough even for us to do as faculty and librarians, because you go from a surface level immediately to an article that goes really deep into one very deep concept. How are they going to incorporate that into their paper? So we're still working on that piece, to be honest. But I also was available in their LMS, which we use Blackboard, or we did for this class. And I met in the library one-on-one with a few of them. not as many as we'd hoped. But honestly, being there on day 2, they did ask a lot of questions. Some of them, I found this interesting from the librarian's perspective. I got to see how students interact with faculty, and some of them just ignored what I said and cited that blog that had the incorrect information anyway because it popped up first. So I learned a lot on how I can help students better and what they don't know even after you teach it once. So it's something, it has to be taught repetitively. You can't just teach how to do research in one session. That's one of the lessons learned, I guess. But that was how I co-taught that class. And then when I went into Jay's class later on, I went for just one visit, but it was a little bit different class. It had a different type of student. And I think that's our next slide, right?
Actually, we'll talk about how we introduced it. So you have more, yes, you'll do more with Jay.
Oh, sorry, here we go.
once we went through this one time, being on the committee, luckily our Sandy committee runs like a faculty learning community. We share everything, we help each other, we talk about research, and so there's a real collective in there. So I brought Jennifer joined the group, which she should always have been there. And joined our committee, and I brought what we were working on to the committee, and Jay, we worked together so closely. She immediately thought this would work in her class. So what was nice is the idea is having this collaborative among faculty. We're able to move this, try it in other courses and learn from each other.
And the beauty of the three-way collaboration is Anne, not only as a journalism professor, but also she also wears the hat of the senior instructional designer, as well as our COIL standing committee before her retirement from Brockport. So with the rich experience and with her own expertise in technology, it's very helpful for me to invite both Anne and Jennifer as the librarian to come to my classroom and to co-teach the lesson with me. Sometimes we know that when we as the one professor talk about a certain thing, it may not resonate to the certain students. The students may do whatever they still build the habit in of. Jennifer has already mentioned the example of using the reliable resource. However, when the three of us work together, I think there was a very powerful statement to say how reliable this procedure and resources will be, and the students are more lean towards listening to the three of us from different angles, but then deliver the same message.
Yes, and so I'm the librarian. In the next pictures you'll see, I guess we'll go to that. This is when I taught with Jay in her class. This is actually in March of 2020. So it's the last class I taught in person before COVID hit. And this one, though, it went really well because, like Jay said, we were there helping them find sources. This class was also more upper level, so more like seniors, and they were able to get in to find the deeper information a little more easily than the freshmen, because for the freshmen, it seemed like such a new concept to them. So we go to online learning in the spring of 2020. And over the summer, if you want to go to the next slide, I took what I usually did in class and tried to convert it to videos that could be shown via Blackboard. So this is the module of just the library portion in a course that Jay taught in the fall. And I did a brief introduction to myself, and then also an overview of the research guide. And the second one is finding the deep culture information. So I believe Jay is going to try to click on show what the YouTube video looks like.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. Before I show the video, I just want to say with those two pictures, Anne was the one who was taking the picture. So the three of us were in the classroom all together. And a little bit background about this class is this was assessments for special education. So the students in my class are seniors right before their student teaching. So they're upper level, it is an upper level class. And the timing is a little bit interesting for this class because that class at that time was happening 8 o'clock every Tuesday morning, because we are coiling with a Chinese university, and we have 12 hours and then 13 hours difference because of the daylight changing. So that's just a little bit background, but you can see our students, because I think that's again is the powerful statement of the three-way collaboration, because you see at 8 o'clock, the students are ready to go for work. So just a little bit background. And now I'm going to share. Hopefully you can hear. If you don't, I will stop sharing and then reshare. Let's see if you can hear Jennifer's talking. Can you hear?
It's very, very faint.
Oh.
Might be the YouTube setting on the video, perhaps.
I think it's the, when you open it, you have to, I think it might, maybe have to show, click that.
Okay. Let's try again. Hopefully you will hear.
Hello, this video is going to give you.
Is it better?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Hello, this video is going to give you a brief overview of the Country and Culture Information Research Guide that was created for you by librarians at the Drake Library of SUNY Brockport. I recommend starting with this guide as it will help you to find reliable websites and articles that will help you discover both surface and deep culture concepts about your country. The link should be listed in your Blackboard course, or you can get to it from the library webpage by clicking on Research Guides. The URL is up here at the top, library.brockport.edu/culture. Although basic information, the surface culture, can be found fairly easily on the internet, you need to pay attention to the website address and creator. You don't want to cite someone's blog with incorrect information. You want to use more reliable websites. We have listed several websites on the background information tab of the guide that will be useful. While some are based in the United States, not every site is. We have included a United Nations site and the World Health Organization and the BBC News country profiles. You will notice their addresses often are a .gov or a .org, meaning a government website or a nonprofit organization. While you still need to evaluate the information found on these sites, these are good starting points for information like population, economics, or religion. At the very bottom of the page are the ebooks and resources from SUNY Brockport. These two resources both have good history of the country, but they are a bit dated, so be careful if you look at some of the more up-to-date information like population. Also on this research guide, we have links for citing your sources, and we have included 3 of the most popular ones used on our campus. Be sure to check with your professor so that you know which style you should use, which will be the best for your papers. And finally, the Get Help tab. This is where you can chat online with a librarian. You can see my picture. This is Jennifer Kegler. You could email me or schedule an appointment for me. If I'm online on chat, you'll be able to chat with me here. And you can see these are some of the different subjects that I work with.
Yeah, I want to say one nice thing about this, if I can, before we go on. I think Erin's going to, for you too, this is important. We always talk about is this instructional design as just-in-time teaching and things. So even after Jennifer came to the class, putting this back up, because they see things in class and it can go by, but being able to reinforce how to use this by encouraging them to use this again. I think I'm going to do this again this week, in fact, because just the idea of getting back to Jennifer or going through it and then to me, them connecting with the librarian, but that just-in-time teaching, even if it's at this point, it replaced her in the classroom, this will also be a good piece in hybrid or face-to-face.
Yes, and also I put it as a library module for my students in my course Blackboard site. But my international partner students won't be able to access to my Blackboard site because of the registration restrict. However, because Jennifer also provided the link to the YouTube, a lot of the international partner students would be able to access through the YouTube and then learn about these websites and resources. And last few semesters, I have been working with a Brazilian professor and her students, and they found this is so helpful to build the research foundation for their assignment and to learn more about the United States and also about themselves. They want to build their own, like my partner professor talked with their librarian, and they would like to work together to build their own website mimic to what Jennifer has created for this. So this is not only benefit for our students at Brockport, but also our international partner students as well. So this is an example of the icebreaker. Before the students meet to introduce themselves, mimic to Anne's idea of the icebreaking activity, I asked the students to, instead of writing an essay, which I know would be too much for my students because of all the other content. So I asked them to build a concept wheel to talk about the surface culture, historical and modern, and the deep culture, historical and modern. In that case, the students will demonstrate their learning of their partner university's country's culture in this way, instead of thinking, oh, how many words I should complete for an essay. They can focus more on the content. So here is an example of this semester. My partner university is Mexico, and this is one of my students' work. So the student talked about the holiday celebrations and the language as the surface culture historical facts, and talk about the education and the food as the surface culture modern facts. Then when it comes to the deep culture, historically, the students talked about Maya civilization and native Mexicans. And also for the deep culture modern perspectives or modern facts, they talked, she particularly talk about the gender issue and also the raising children, the responsibility of raising children. So you can see the students not only talking about the partner universities, countries, cultures at the surface level, but also they think more deeper. And they, when it comes to the time for them to interact with each other the first time, I received the feedback, and I believe Anne also received feedback from their partner universities, professors and the students, that because of the research foundation, our students seem to be very well prepared when it comes to the interactions.
So I still think Jay's is the better way to go here, but I decided, Jen and I looked at it together after viewing Jay's class, and I said, what can I do to change mine? And I stepped away from the essay and I asked them to please write 3 sentences for each. And because I wasn't sure how it was going to work for them with even the concept wheel being freshmen. And probably when I look at it now, they probably are more used to that, really coming from K-12, you know? So I did have them do this, and they still struggled with the idea of in-text, which Jennifer was there to help them. Still, how many words, how many, you know, you said 3 sentences, does it mean 3 full sentences? I mean, things like that. That I think it's just something that we have to work with. And they are going to be the questions. So you try to give as much as you can without giving away everything. So this time, the last time this semester, they worked on this, but I did see a little ease of worry about writing an essay. I did see better in-text citations from here. So I wanted to show you where I evolved to. I'm going to give you an example next of how things have come along well. So what they have to do, so I had them do the research, and then I decided to have them create a survey. This semester, we normally met with the class. We have 2 teams in Brockport. I have 40 or 50 students, and my colleague always had less than 20. So I would have 2 teams of 4 here on a topic, but to 1 team there. So they were to market to each other, of the 3, market to each other. And the first assignment is to do a print advertisement, and they have to do all the research behind it. And then a commercial, a video advertisement with research behind it. Who's the audience? What are their interests? All these different things that you would look for if you're going to try to persuade an audience to buy your product or be brand loyal, or if you're doing a topic such as sustainability goals. We did that with Brazil. We looked at sustainability goals, and we did public service announcements. So they did this. So they did the research. They did a survey, and they asked from the research. I'm trying to scaffold everything. From the research, they would come up with questions more about the topic of interest. They came to a topic of interest and asked the other two groups. They asked the group in Amsterdam and in here. I didn't finish earlier. We were only able to connect with a few students this semester because of the timing. We did this rather, her class was later, mine was later, something with time. So anyways, they surveyed each other and they got more information. Then they came to, this is what they were doing for one of their finals, the last two assignments. And the idea here was to look at finding a product or a topic that was of concern or interest to another country and here. And this one really did well, this group. So they had to show in the beginning 3 examples of their product or topic as it relates to where it is out there, how it's being marketed globally. So this group did find 2 United States, you see Today and Today, and Aspire is a Dutch magazine. So they found this one topic based on the research. It showed them, it's called Herbalife, it's some kind of supplement. They found that the people in the Dutch people are very interested in all healthy things, all natural products, and that they're finding here in the same peer group the same. So they did find this product. It is, and they did find that it was done globally. So this one group, I think there's 2 or 3 of the groups altogether that are really getting the idea that this has to be done globally. So I saw with this slide and with their research, they really did work. They are generally reaching that, they're scaffolding and getting to the point where we want them to be. I wanted to share that, okay.
So the collaboration, not only did we meet some of the goals for student learning and international opportunities, but the 3 of us also were able to work together on scholarship collaboration opportunities. And we have a book chapter that it's in press right now. We presented at an international conference a year ago, and we're doing this one at the state level. And we also have presented at CELT, which is at SUNY Brockport. It's our teaching and learning center. And it's just been a really good collaboration and fun to work with and to reflect. And obviously we keep redeveloping what's going on.
And when we were reflecting about this, we think this is an ongoing process. So we always come back to talk about it, to debrief, and to say what else can we do to improve. And we believe that 2 heads are better than 1, and now 3 heads are even better. We were able to better prepare our students for intercultural competence because we have seen some of the examples from our students that they're interested in learning more about global education because of this COIL. And some of them even come back to say, what else can we take with the COIL components? And we heard back the similar process, the feedback from our partner universities students as well. And we believe with the collaboration with Jennifer's join, it strengthened the research base, and it also helped build the students' ability to be research-based and to provide research-based information. As a teacher candidates of my student, they are required to have this research-based and evidence-based information because as a teacher later, they're going to talk with the parents and the principals and the administrators, not only say, I think this will work, but also talk about why this will work. This has the research base. So I think our collaboration really strengthened the students' ability to do so. And also it allowed us and me and Jennifer as instructors to assess our students' international learning outcomes based on the evidence. Instead of saying, oh, I think my students achieved this, but now we have the work samples which are aligned with the missions and aligned with the student learning outcomes as well. So this is the end of our presentation. If we want to go with the questions.
Yeah, if there's any questions, by all means, you can unmute your microphones or even type in the chat. just thought I'd highlight a couple things that I really appreciated from your presentation. I love, I used to be an instructional designer, right, on a campus. And so there's a lot of this that sort of resonates with that work. But I really appreciate, Jennifer, one of the things you said about joining the students as the librarian, instead of bringing them to the library, which is also, they need to know how to use the library, right? And they need to know how to navigate, but meeting them in their own space where they're comfortable as the initial kind of interaction that you had with them. And I think that that's really valuable too. Taking time away from your space to join them in their space and be able to develop that relationship in that way. So that was really interesting to me. I also, I mentioned in the chat a couple times about having this piece as a module in the LMS, and that's so transferable to other courses too. Mm-hmm. It is something that you've built and created, and it's now a resource that can be used in many different places, probably in different ways. And the assignment alone, and even that hesitation about essays, that we have for freshmen, and that's okay. But being willing to look at how can you keep revising that you knew that the value was in the assignment and in the outcomes that the students would get from doing that work. And so how you create the assignment is, it's less important than what they're going to get out of it in the end. So it didn't have to be an essay, and you recognize that we can change this up so that they still get the benefits of the assignment. I thought that was a really neat kind of learning experience for all of you together. Mm-hmm. So I'll be quiet. Are there other thoughts or comments or questions? And also for the three of you, would you do anything differently?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to meet at the end of this semester, and because I want to share with Jay the things that went on with my class, and Jennifer, I want to debrief, because I even now just looking again because I'm in the process of working on the class right now. I would like to maybe step back a little bit and reintroduce more of what Jennifer's pieces, because what I saw was they did the research. Some groups really excelled. Others did the research on the one, but I don't see them doing it as we go forward. It's like that was for that assignment, even though it's stated in each assignment, I don't know if they're doing it enough. So I think to reintroduce her into the process, and then take a look at what Jay did and maybe rework the assignment again itself. So that's what I'm thinking right now, but I think we're going to definitely debrief and try to rework things.
Yes, I agree with Anne. I think after I taught and then I saw the results of what they did, I said, well, Anne, they didn't seem to understand what I said, or, it's hard for them all to get it perhaps the first time, and that's okay. But how do you communicate that? It was a little tougher this semester because we all had masks on and we were in this huge, like a lecture hall. So I felt like they were really, really far away, and it was hard to interact with them in person. But even so, Anne said I did describe what we wanted them to find, but not all of them quite got it. So talking more about the language we use, and maybe the transferable skills is something we talk about in the library field all of the time, because they learn it for one class and they don't realize you can take this to another class and do research that way. So even just take it to another assignment in the same class, which is what Anne just described. It's difficult. It's something, especially with the freshmen, I felt that was tough. And I'm sure they had many things going on besides, there's just a lot right now.
Erin, I also want to add one thing. I think after last year, many times things become reactive. So all of a sudden they're running away from the idea what's online because of what happened last year. Realistically, I would say putting some of these things back in, some of the stuff we learned from being all online last year, where like I had my colleague from Amsterdam and I had another professor lecture to the class, and I did it through Zoom because I was able to see them. So we're in this large room. We're all masked. And like Jennifer's saying, we can't really, you're trying your best to see what's going on, but it's spread across. So I think I did a few of them this way so I could have them more involved, call them by name. So there's some beauty to stepping away from even the 100% what it means, and reintegrating now some of the things we learned in the last year into the classes that would benefit the students, so you can actually see what they're doing. Maybe they could share a screen, show us what you're working on right now, share with the class. There might be some real benefit here in our hybrid area too. That's probably a good study from last year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of my takeaway from this project is I learned from Anne and Jennifer about the adaptation of the use of ACNU, the value rubrics. And I went back to find the intercultural competence rubric, and I tailored it to my course this semester. And when I was evaluating, I found it definitely needs more work to be adaptive to my class, because some of the criteria was not suitable for my assessment. So I need to, we need to work together. We have time to do that, but I need to get time to come back and revise it further so that it can be tailored to my class, and also I can assess my students with their performance. It's not just a thing I think they achieved this, but we can provide more evidence. I think this is one lesson, or maybe one further step I want to take. I agree with Anne and Jennifer about the transferable skills. I think this is important. Anne and Jennifer have been doing a great way to introduce the essay concept and related this with the research base. I think a lot of students, when we talk about essay or paper, they get scared immediately. It's kind of like a psychological, not ability level. It's just psychologically they feel incompetent. But then I see my students coming from the freshman to the senior level, they feel a little bit more comfortable with, maybe not that confident, but more comfortable with that. And I think this is the foundation what colleagues like Anne and Jennifer have built into their skills and abilities. So sometimes they see the students are struggling, or some of the students are struggling, but we as the faculty members who are teaching at a higher level, so sometimes we see the fruits or products of their hard work. So I want to say thank you to them, and also appreciate this opportunity, Erin. You are building us together, connecting us together to share this experience, to talk about it.
Yeah, I love that point you made about some lay the foundation, and then you see the effects of that long-term on the other end of their journey, right? So that's a great point.
And Jennifer had one of my students come for a different class, right? I think.
Yes, I had someone who needed help somewhere else, and she says, I had you in journalism, but now I have to do this research. So it builds that connection and community, and that's really important right now when it was hard to build community when we were all remote, but we're working on it.
Yeah. That's great that they then saw you as that resource that they could use for other classes. And that's what we want to build, is that transferable knowledge.
Right. It was great.
Well, we have 1 minute left. So are there other questions or comments?
I know now I'm going to work on the rubric with Jay and Jennifer. That's where we're going next. I just heard it.
Yes, you're right.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you for having us.
Jay and Anne.
Well, thank you all for joining us to present and share, your experience and your lessons that came out of this. Be really great. And it's a nice model too, really, to look at the partnership between our libraries that we need more of, I believe. But
we do. I would definitely second that.
Yeah. I know, right?
I think that's the way we present it too. The next time too, we present it as a collaborative,
Absolutely. Well, I'll just mention for the recording too, and for folks online, that the schedule of events this week, we do have 3 more sessions tomorrow. So our next one begins at 10 a.m. tomorrow. The session schedule and recordings are available at that site. And we do have a survey just for some feedback on folks, their experience with National Distance Learning Week this week. And the USDLA website has events going on all week across the globe. So it's really an international collaboration, and we're happy to be a part of it here at SUNY Online. So thanks again for everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you.